Okay, nice. It's going. Thank you, Lon, for the reminder. Cool. It's me, Isro. So we can talk about the building culture that nurtures leadership. I think it's very pretty interesting topic, and I like the session flow. Uh, okay, because I'm. It's not that I'm telling that I did good job, but okay, this is like we are building this session like together for the overall like global planetary. So we am delivering and like I like the session first. So I'm saying like I like the session flow. But anyway, so let's get this started, guys. So I have again I have like record cool. Hello MCPs and MCVPs. If you're MCP and MCVP, you should be here. If not, like if you're LC, there's another space for you. So make sure that you're following that. Cool. So how are you doing? Let's put something in the chat. How are you doing? How are you feeling right now? Just put something so I know what's the mood in the planetary. Um, energetic. I give good job. Bro. Proud of you. Excited. Cool. Amazing. It's people. 36 people in the chat. Okay. Hard to go. Cool, man. Nice. Good job. Bringing that energy into the space. Oh, thank you, NJ. I hope this is NJ or Michael. I don't know. Because both of you use the MC Australia. Okay, cool. Thank you, Travis. Amazing. A lot of expectations, no pressure at all. Cool. So let's get it started. So what we're gonna do is before we get started, like let me tell you two stories. Um, these are about two experiences that I had before we go for objectives, before we talk about like what we're gonna talk in the session and all this stuff. I just want to make sure that just want to start with the two stories. Um, so this is two stories about two of my team experiences that I had so far. I want to invite you to notice the key highlights of the story while I'm sharing. Okay, cool. So my first story, there are six parts to it. There are six part of the story, and yeah, let's see what is the story is about. So this story is about my first team experience. Give me a second. Yeah, the story is about my first team experience. One of my team experience that I ever had. One of my best team experiences that I ever had, which is our 1920. And one thing that surprised me the most in this team experience, I think we were six people, seven people from different countries, different nationalities, and all of from coming from different backgrounds, and like we were working together. I think that is one of the cool thing about this experience. And one of thing that surprised me the most is that let me put on the chat. Cool. One of the things that surprised me the most is that, like, whenever we are having conversation, there will be always someone who's thinking about the fact that, oh, can we do something better? Or is this the best result that we can arrive to? Or when you're talking about a problem, or when you're talking about trying to discuss a solution, there will always there will be a final point where everyone is thinking about, um, is this the final solution? Is this something better that we can do? So sometimes I remember there are some meetings getting like dragged, like some meetings are getting like went over time because we just want to like change one small thing so that our service will be better or our the experience that you're providing for a delegate or one particular entity can be better. So like I think this is something really cool. And I really appreciate about the team. In the previous when I was working in the this particular team, also like we had people in the team that who we can rely on. Like there are people like who if she's like we had team member like if she's like, oh, she's gonna, if she says that she's gonna do it, like we for sure know that she's gonna do it, and we can rely on her word. We can rely on like what she promised. So as well as like if she cannot do something, she openly say like, oh, I cannot do this. This is sorry, this is not something that I can do, or like I need an extension on a deadline. So like I think this is something that set us more realistic expectations in terms of working with them. And I think even saying no is something very hard to do. I think if you are one of the person who are working in a team, and if people come to and ask you like something, can you help me with this? Like we always go for the answer, yeah, of course, like we can help you out. But I think saying no is like important part because I think we learned this from the people that who are practicing this actively and very conscious about it. I think there is something like really something that put us in a lot of perspective, yeah, understanding our own capacity. One more thing that we observe is that there we had people from different cultures, of course, like, and then they had different preferences in terms of team spaces, in terms of managing how you want to like chill with the team or like how you work with the team. So I think like even though that they had different expectations, we were able to come to a point to understand each other and like be very inclusive toward everyone when you are designing team space or when you go forward and doing something with them. I think that is another thing that I want to mention is that whenever we were doing strategies or when you're coming up with something, I think something that we always try to remember is that can there be something that we can take from the previous generation? Can there be something that we can build upon? Or can we build something right now so other people can take forward? I think example, we talk about the succession strategy that we had in the last year, which was taken forward from the RO 18 to 1819, and we built it in 1920, and now we are continuing in 2021 as well. Likewise, these kind of strategies that we understand like it cannot be done in 1 year, so that how we can build something sustainable, something long term, um, with whatever that we do. And another thing that I want to mention is that the team leader, of course, Shome that we had, and she was, I think like she's coming from different background, and like there are people coming from different background. And we had different way we like to be led. I think she tried to understand like how much these different styles that we're working together, and then try to facilitate this kind of experience, best experience for us. Always like giving us opportunity to take different roles and take leadership roles, and so that we can helping out, and we can make sure that we get the chance to like lead something. And last thing that I want to mention is that one of my favorite moments in the during the conference is that I think we had the during the conference APLS. I think it's one moment that we delivered. From that moment, I think we are able to see the overall picture of we get to see like work with different people from the region, and we get a chance to like work with different nationalities. And I think like loving to understand their needs, understand their what they required in a conference, and try to facilitate that, having that discussion to make sure that like, yeah, how can we make this better so that people in the conference can enjoy and everyone in there can have like different conversation, how we can like make sure that we are being inclusive to everyone. I think this is one of my favorite moment in here as well. Okay, so this is my first story that I want to share, and let me share my second story. um okay, let me get this. Okay. The second story that I want to share about another team experience that I had. So if you maybe you know some people, maybe you know now, and maybe you have seen like, yeah. So this is another team experience that I had, which is my MC team experience. Of course, like we're working in the MC, and it's kind of a different experience than the regional office. And I think like we had yes, of course, we had different people coming from different backgrounds. And one thing that I notice is sometimes like it was more important for us to get it done rather than like doing it right. So sometimes you're focusing more on like how we can make sure that we get it done faster, or like how we can make sure that we may achieve the deadline, rather than like we put in a lot of focus into like quality of the output. I mean, sometimes we assume that, oh, it doesn't really make a difference when we didn't really focus on the quality. But like, rather than like, oh, like it's make sure that we send this, we fill the soda, or like we fill the GFB, or like we make sure that the something like commercial call agenda or something like that. Sometimes like it became last minute, which is not really good thing. But we try to make sure that we delivered it rather than like we think about quality. I think that is something, especially like this happen when you're under a lot of pressure, especially like during the conference time when there are like elections and things are happening. Maybe like the amount of time that we put into the quality, like something that I observe is like please like decrease, as well as like something that in the entity is something I didn't really like. I was like people were trying to find loopholes, like, oh, there's a process stability, there's a governance system, there's a compendium. they're like, oh, but thing is like this is not specifically mentioned in the competitive, so can we do this? And there's like this is not specified in this process, like maybe like, so I did that, so and then because of that, like no, you cannot really blame me for this. Things like that, like this is something that I really didn't like. And um and that is something that, yeah, that's something that we observe in the entity itself, as well as like sometimes in the MC team as well. Or like you didn't mention that you need to be in the MC office for the MC team meeting. I was like, come on, man, like it's a team meeting, like be in the office. And so I think like this kind of stuff like is something that we some there are some behaviors that we didn't really like. Another thing that was like yeah, I think like sometimes in the conference, like the things that we took for granted, man, like when you have the plenaries, when you have the or check in and check out, the opening ceremonies, and sometimes like, oh, the fast is not done in the session, they go to the corner and like they just like make the session in the slide, like in the behind, like MC, like if you have done this, man, you know like what you have done. To be honest, like I have done this as well. Not a really good thing. And but what I'm saying is like sometimes it's go to a level of like very disturbing, and like that is also like a behavior that I really didn't like. And another thing is like how you can make sure the transition process happens. Sometimes like when you go for the transition process, like, you see like either like some people in the current team they get elected for the new experience, so they leave already, and or either like they find a job and so they can contribute a lot to the transition and all this stuff. So these kind of things we deprioritize. So because of that, sometimes the next generation like they feel a little bit lost, and they maybe start doing something new, or they do the same mistake again and again. And yeah, sometimes like it's the that's why like it's why like we need to put more focus into transition and all this stuff. I think this is also something that we noticed, like sometimes people don't really put a lot of focus into this, because they either think like it should come automatically, or either that they think they cannot invest a lot of capacity into this part. And I think like another thing that we notice is that the like different key roles that we had in the entity, like maybe MCVP, maybe LCP, LCVP, sometimes they are hesitant to share their experience. Sometimes they're not talking in a plenary. Sometimes they're not joining in the sharing spaces too. So that I think this, we underestimate that how much capacity that we have in terms of inspiring other people through our experiences. So I think that is something that we also like need to be more conscious about. Another thing that I want to mention is that the how people bring in their own biases. Like we see like people coming from LCs, we see people coming from different backgrounds. Sometimes when they make a national decisions, sometimes they bring their own biases. So I think this is also something that we don't really realize, but at the end, like maybe um, yeah, we make the not the perfect decision. So yeah, I think these are the two stories that I want to share. And from this, I want to mention you that one thing that I want to mention is there are moments that we live our values. There are moments that we didn't live our values. So all these things that I mentioned, it has all of these two stories had 6 key points, which is related to the values. We're talking about striving for excellence, activating leadership, acting sustainably, demonstrating integrity, enjoying participation, living diversity. So these values, like in our journey, like sometimes we experience good team experience. Of course, like all the teams that I had, like they did good things, and there are some mistakes, there are some learning opportunities that happened. But at the end of the day, like through looking back in our journey, there were some moments that we were not actually uh, living these values. And this is why the session objectives in here is the, like how understand how current culture affect leadership pipeline, and understanding practices that nurture engagement and succession, and map out changes that need to be in their team and entity. So these are the things that we're gonna talk about right now in this session. This is about how we can build the succession through a culture, and like why we are going back to the values as our root cause. I think the culture is building up based on the values and the behaviors that we are practicing inside the entity. Uh, yeah. So moving forward, I don't know how good the story was, but like, yeah, I hope you guys enjoy. Thinking hacks. So the session will require thinking, being observant, drawing your own conclusions, making assumptions, being honest with yourself, and thinking again. Because I think the you will have like a big working time in the space. We'll try to give you space to like work with different people. from different entities. You can share your perspectives, you can share your experiences. So make sure that you invest this time into thinking and sharing your ideas so that we'll be able to bring a better output from this space. Amazing. Session flow, we are going to define culture, we are going to understand the current state, we are going to visualize the desired state, and then how to bridge the gap and learning and sharing. So this is the session flow, how it's going to look like for us today. Are you guys ready? Are you guys excited? Let's put something in the chat. Yes, I see Amy is putting thumbs up. Okay, Kezia. Kezia is different from Casey, right? Okay, it's not the same person.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Okay, cool. Okay. Uh, nice. Smile, nice. Amazing. Okay, cool. Let's define what culture is. So this is first part that we're going to go through defining what culture is. And in order for this, like, I think best place that we can start is like talking about some myths about culture, talking about what some misunderstanding that we have about culture. One thing that some people think is like culture, like when you put your values, when you put like what you want to strive, and when you showcase that everywhere, okay, this has become part of the culture. This is we define culture. But I think that is not entirely true. I think the culture is like something more fundamental, something that goes to more back to more root causes, and it's something that need to be established. Sometimes it's very hard to establish consciously. It's not that it's impossible. I think that it's a conscious decision for sure that we go ahead and like try to establishing a culture. But at the end of the day, if you try to push it harder, like people are gonna like retract, people are gonna like take it bad, people are not gonna enjoy. So like it cannot be some, it should, you find this sweet spot where you can make sure that it's happening and like not pushing it too hard as well. So I think this is like, and one of the myths about culture. Culture is not about like people getting along. Like, of course, there can be like people getting along in the LC level, MC level, but still, if you are not, if you cannot see it, or if it doesn't represent from your behaviors, if it doesn't represent from your actions, then it's not, of course, part of culture. Culture is not people being friends. Yeah, it's like it's different than that. I think it should be embedded into like more action and behavior part. Culture is not fluffy. Like it's not something that, yes, sometimes like, oh, like it's about like all the fluffy stuff that we talk about. Yes, it is part of the culture, but that's not the overall thing about culture. That is not the whole thing that we try to address. Culture is not just about perks. And there can be like yeah, so like it can be there can be perks, and there can be like bad things as well. So like it's not only about like good things that are happening in the entity. It's not neither bottom up or either like top down. Like it's kind of a combination of this. Sometimes the people in the organization bring stuff to the organization. Like if you bring like, I don't know, maybe like if you go through like a one recruitment phase, like maybe the new people that join to the organization, they bring some different behaviors, different kind of activities. When they come to the leadership roles, they bring something to the culture. But in the same time, the culture should also come from the top layer, like MC or like the LCs, LCPs, ED executives. Like they should also be downscaling something. So it should meet in the middle. So it cannot be always like top down, or it cannot be always like bottom up. Culture is doing social things together. Like that's not entirely true, but that's part of it. There's right and wrong culture. Like there's nothing called right and wrong culture. There are a different part of the culture, but uh, different areas of culture, like different methods and different categories, I would say. And it depends on like what is your entity reality, that what you want to add up. What else come to your mind? If there's anything else that comes to your mind that you have heard about culture that you think that's not true, and if you want to share something. No, going for one, going for two, going for three. Okay, cool. Yes, I think this is covers most of it. I think yeah, I think especially like it's required a change management. That is one thing that I want to mention. If you're looking for like a cultural change in your entity, in terms of, especially for the leadership, like leadership pipeline that you're talking about right now, it requires some kind of like change management process. and it takes some time. Sometimes like shaping culture, you cannot do it in one term. Like it's about like continuity. Okay, it's not sometimes, like most of the time. Like if you completely want to change the culture, if you want to completely change your behaviors, sometimes you need to accept like, oh, this is not going to be good for like right now. Like, but I'm seeing this is going to happen in the couple of years down the line. It's all about like keep doing it, like so, and continuing that process so that you will see a long-term results in the entity. Okay, cool. Going back. Culture is what unite people toward and one vision. It's shared assumptions that drive how people perceive, think, and feel. Of course, there can be different definitions for the culture, but this is something simple that I want to show to you. It's something that helps you to unite people. It's something that people people can feel that they're part of community, like they're part of this society or this part of like a group of people that like that I'm belonging to that space. So that I think the culture is like helping you that so that this whole group of people can achieve ambition or achieve a goal together. And it is shared assumptions that drive how people perceive, think, and feel. So that is something we also keep in our mind. A building culture that nurtures leadership. What does it mean? So if you talk about like the culture that we need to build inside the entity to nurture leadership, so I think it requires about it's mostly about building a culture that nurtures leadership pipeline. How we can make sure that like more people want to apply for different roles, how we can make sure that the different like how we can go into like even all the layers in the organization, and how we can make sure that they want to keep continue up, and they want to we can push them forward, and so that they can stay longer in the organization. This is something that we're going to talk about. So we're going to use culture as a tool. We're going to use culture as something to, yeah, culture as a tool in terms of building leadership pipeline in the long run. So this is basically the purpose of this session. Building culture that nurture leadership pipeline. What are the shared basic assumptions that drive how people perceive, think, and feel about leadership positions in ISAC? So this is a question that I want to ask from you. So I think we'll go a little bit into exploring this and see like what uh, about our actions or behaviors about the culture. But one thing that I want to mention here is like strategy and culture. So I think like we have all these things about like strategy, we talk about like culture is strategy for breakfast and all these things is out there, and but we want to define for the purpose of this session what is strategy and what is culture. So strategy is like offers a formal logic for the company's goals and orient people around them. So this is more like a it has a proper action plan, it has goals, it has KPIs, MOSs, it has key responsibilities, like we know like who's doing what and when are we going to achieve which goal. Culture expresses goals through values and beliefs and guides activity through shared assumptions and group norms. So culture is something that allows you to drive strategies better, and culture is something that gonna dominate the environment that you're driving the strategy. Like whenever whatever the strategy that you're gonna do in the LC level, the MC level, it's gonna like example. If I talk about a strategy that imagine that you come up with this really cool strategy that you want to do with the LCPs, and you go and like as a MCP or as a MC team, you go and go to the LCPs and say, oh, like yeah, we want to do this and this with you. This is our goal that we want to achieve. But things like imagine that the other behaviors and the perceptions that they are exist in the LC level or the MC level are going to shape this strategy without you even knowing how it's going to change. Example, like maybe if you have example, if you think part of the culture is like you are always late for the meetings, so whatever that you're going to do in the whatever that you want to execute in the LC level, that you might not be able to achieve your timeline will be always get delayed, and you will be like yeah, you will not be able to like gather everyone together into one place so that you will be able to like brainstorm and gather ideas. So because this is because of the part of the culture is like affect into your strategy that you want to try, or it can also be something positive. If you say like if part of the culture is like you are more action oriented, even though your strategy is like not that solid, even your strategy action step are not that solid, like when you go with the strategy to the network, they're going to accept it, and they're going to work together with you so that they will be able to achieve the goals that you want to achieve. So that is also the positive side. So the part of the culture, like these elements of the culture is going to shape the strategy like without you even knowing. So that is part of the I think this is two part that we need to keep in our mind. So our strategic objective to increase the number of people that apply for leadership positions. So this is what we want to achieve. In order to achieve this, what you're looking in right now are the key strategies. So key strategies are going to cover in these areas in succession planning, training and development, reward and recognition, member engagement. So this is what we see as the key strategies that can drive to achieve the strategic objective that we want to achieve. Are you guys clear about the strategic objective as well as the key strategies or the everything that I mentioned so far? We define the culture. We talk about what are the like how the culture is like affecting to the different strategies and what is the strategy, what is the culture, and now we are in a place of talking about overall strategic objective, which is increasing number of people applying for leadership positions, and key strategies that you can drive in order to achieve that, which are succession planning, training and development, reward and recognition, member engagement. Okay, so what you're going to define right now, we're going to think about, we're going to look back and we're going to go back and see what is our current situation in the entity. So we're going to talk about what are the shared assumptions, group norms that determine how people perceive, think, and feel about key strategies. So if you think about succession planning, training and development, reward and recognition, member engagement, we're going to think about how we can, what is the current situation of this right now. So before that, let's take a step back and we want to make sure that this is one of the easiest explanation that we can understand how the culture connects with the behaviors and actions and all. So the values that we have in the organization, the more that we practice the values are going to shape the behaviors of the people in the organization. And the behaviors are going to shape the actions. So what is the difference between behaviors and actions? Behaviors are more embedded. Behaviors are more normal. They are more autonomous. That comes naturally for the people. And these behaviors are the one that going to define the shape, the actions of your entity. And actions create culture. So it's simple as that. So like how we connect the values and the culture is like this is where we start our conversation, right? We start our conversation in the beginning talking about values, the 6 values of organization. We start off the point of talking about sometimes we practice values, sometimes we don't practice values. And so we want to make sure that we are creating an environment we can practice value all the time. Through that, we want to make sure that we are creating some behaviors inside the organization. Through that behaviors, we want to see some actions. And these actions we want to lead to a part of, we want to lead to creating a culture in the entity. Cool. I promise I'm going to stop talking soon. I know I've been talking a long time, and I'm going to let you guys do the work, and for sure, but bear with me for now. And cool. So I want you guys to have a pen and paper, or like have a space ready on your laptop to take notes. So this is something that from now onwards we'll be working a little bit toward like understand our assumption, understand like how things are they are in the entity. If you're ready, you can put in the chat. If you have pen already, if you have okay, amazing. Any thumbs up? Yes, ready. Amazing. Cool. Okay, I want you guys to be very conscious about like this is an expectations toward this next activity. Be very conscious about even the smallest thing in the entity, in the things that you observe. Like think about a time that you were working with your LCPs or working with your LCVPs, and think about time that you went to an LC visit and observe how the people are working in the entity. Think about time that you went to an LCM, see how the members are engaging with the entity, members are engaging with their EBs and all. So this is also an thing that I want you to be thinking about while you're reflecting on this next part. Okay, cool. Okay, so the question that we have, the first part that we're going to talk about is like what actions show us this, and what actions shows us that, and about the shared assumptions, group norms, and how people perceive, think, and feel about key strategies. So we're going to thinking about a couple of strategies, and we're going to thinking about what are the actions that actually shows us this in the entity at this point right now. So my guiding questions for this are like, what actions show how people perceive leadership roles? When thinking about leadership roles, what kind of actions that you see that that you see from the people, that you can take an assumption about how they perceive this leadership role. What actions show how people think about leadership role? What action shows how people feel about leadership roles? What are the actions of the people who those apply for high leadership roles? What are the actions of those who do not apply for high leadership role? I think recently you had your LCVP elections. Right now you go for like you have MCVP applications open. Maybe you can think about from their perspective. Maybe if you get the chance to talk to a candidate or potential candidate pool, which is your previous LCVPs, thinking about like these things, how you perceive and how people think and how they feel about leadership roles, about the actions. So giving you an example, these are my observations. So actions that you can that I can see from these people is like first thing is like whether they apply leadership role or not. As simple as that. Sometimes, okay, people apply. When the people apply, I can see like they have positive attitude toward the leadership role in my entity. Or people, a lot of people don't apply. Maybe that is an indication that people don't have positive attitude toward the leadership role in my entity. Sometimes people book one-to-one to seek understand the role. Like people try to engage with you, they try to talk to MCVPs. They seek for like understanding more about the role that how the MC is doing. If you're thinking about the MC pipeline, their relationship with their direct team leader. I think it can be positive or negative. Sometimes even like positive if they have a good relationship. Imagine like you have a good LCEB where they have like a good relationship with the LCP and the LCVPs. Probably like the LCP might encourage a lot of their LCVPs to apply for the leadership roles. This might be something. This is an action that I usually see in my entity. Leadership positions, if you talk about like people who apply or not apply for leadership positions, there are people like who tried new things and apply for different opportunities. I can see some people like who apply for like a lot of OCs in the LC, a lot of like national OCs. They apply for NST, they want to be EST, and they try different things. They always apply for different stuff, and they like to apply for high leadership role. This is an action that I see. And they spoke up about things that they don't like. Sometimes they have an opinion. They have opinion like if something MCs do something bad or good or bad, they have an opinion toward it. They try to like go and express it. Sometimes it's private, sometimes it's like publicly. But either way, that there are people. This is an action that I see who people applying for leadership roles. They have opinion, so they want to do something. They execute and achieve their goals. Sometimes there are people who like, or they always like they want to achieve their goals. They are like super in the achievement phase. This is an also action I have seen like some of the MCVPs who applied to my term. They ask for help. Like this is also something that I see like maybe like from they have good relationship with the other LCs. There can be like some people in the network I see. Oh, this person, like all the LCs know this person. Because why? Because this person goes and help for the entity. They ask for help from other entity. They share the materials and they like they are very proactive, like in terms of like this kind of thing. So this is the actions that I have seen in here. So this is my example. So I'll give you guys 2 minutes for you to think about these guiding questions and write down, look back into your entity and write down what you think about that. Okay, 2 minutes. Play a song.
Sometimes it be like that. I might be better on my own. I hate you blowing up my phone. I wish I never met your ex. Sometimes it be like that, but I'm not myself the night you're gone. There ain't no way I'm moving on. I'm not afraid to need you back. Sometimes it be like that. Sometimes when you thought you found the love of your life, now you're thinking I'm just one of those guys leading on. I can't help when you read it wrong. Don't know why I trip on her. She put me down, I pick you up. Can't tell you why, but tell you what. Got me thinking I might be better on my own. I hate you blowing up my phone. I wish I never met your ex. Sometimes it be like that, but I'm not myself the night you're gone. There ain't no way I'm moving on. I'm not afraid to need you back. Sometimes it be like
Okay. Do you guys need more time? If you need time, you can put in the chat. Yes. Okay. I'll give 1 more minute. Okay, cool. 1 minute, guys.
You know that I won't stop until I make you mine. Until I make you mine. Well, I have called you darling, and I say it again, again. So kiss me till I'm sorry, babe, that you are gone and I'm a mess. And I'll hurt you, and you'll hurt me, and we'll say things we can't repeat. Put your hand in mine. You know that I want to be with you all the time. You know that I won't stop until I make you mine. You know that.
Okay. I think we can move forward a little bit. If you haven't done it, like maybe you can spend a little bit time in the next reflection. I can give you like a 1 more extra minute. But yeah, let's move to the next part. So the next part is like behavior. So you remember, like we came from the place of value shape behavior, behavior shape actions, action shape culture, right? So that was a flow. So we are going back now to understand like more fundamentals. So starting from actions, now we are going back to the behaviors and see like, oh, what are the behaviors that we can see in the network or in our entity, to understand, like to see, so for us to make an assumption about how our entity membership think, perceive, think, feel, and feel about key strategies that we are going to talk about: succession planning, training and development, reward and recognition, member engagement. So always keep in our mind, like we are all in the scope of these four strategies. We are going to make sure that, oh, these are the four strategies that we're going to push forward, and these are the four strategies that we are trying to build. So, but right now, what we try to understand is like what are the behaviors that we can observe from the network, from our network, that will allow us to see how they perceive about these strategies. These are my guiding questions. What behaviors do you observe that tells you how people perceive about leadership roles? What behaviors do you observe that tell you how people think about leadership roles? What behaviors do you observe that tell you how people feel about key leadership roles? And what are the behaviors of the people who apply for the high leadership roles? What are the behaviors of those who don't apply for the high leadership role? For me, this is an example. So why what something that I see, like of the people that something that I something that I some behaviors that I can identify in my network, that allows me to see how they perceive, think, and feel about leadership roles are like either they are being proactive, like people being proactive, like they example, if you go to legislation and with your LC members, and if they're like super proactive to ask questions, and they always like read the legislation book that they come to the legislation form or like legislation space, or like they go to the space and they are interested about like not only about their entity, they are interested about other things, they are interested about national decisions. So this is like they are being very proactive toward the national plenary. That is an indication, oh, maybe this person is interested, they have like good um, perception about the leadership roles in the entity. Some people, sometimes you see people are disrespectful. Like sometimes you see like when you go to a plenary, imagine your MCVP is delivering session, and like there's this one guy, man, like who doesn't listen to anything, and he's like, okay, fuck this shit. Like I'm just here because my LCP is like in on my tail, and like I'm not, like I don't give a shit about what you talk about. Yeah, like there are some people like that. Okay, this is a clear indication this person has no idea, no like intention, maybe like go forward, or like they have no intention, they don't have like good perception toward the leadership roles in the entity, right? So they are, because they are here, they are because like they are pushed to be there. They just don't enjoy, they don't think like I can learn something from this leadership role. So yeah, I think that can be an indication. There are people encouraging. There are people like who encourage other people to apply. There are people who encourage other people to take actions and things like that. So this can be a good indication. There are people who are excited. You see like people are super excited to write down soul codes in the planet, or like they are always one like who bring up like all the they always have like you see like this behaviors of like collecting, they are collecting different soul codes in their laptop, and like, they keep it together, and they always have it ready like for the planetary and all this shit. And so that this is like this is can be an like good indication of people seeing how they like enjoy the organization, enjoy the leadership roles, being taking in charge, like being in the place of like, oh, like I want to guide the crowd and all this stuff. Ignorance. There can be two types in terms of like there can be people like who are ignorant and like doesn't know it, that they're ignorant. So this is like genuinely they're genuinely like yeah, just genuinely don't know. And there can be people like, oh, they're ignorant but they have like ego like about like their ignorance, and they're like, okay, fuck this shit, man, like I don't know but I don't really want to know as well. And so maybe these kind of behaviors that you see in the planetary leadership positions, people who apply or don't apply, we see like people striving to achieve their targets. We see like people don't make excuses, like or either make excuses. So people who like this is like common things that I observe in the entity as behaviors. So I'll give you a couple of minutes for you to reflect. I'll give you 4 minutes for this one. So like 3 minutes for this part, and if you want to add 1 minute for the last part to reflect again. So yeah, I'll give you 4 minutes for this part, and then think about these guiding questions. Um, what behaviors perceive and feel and think about leadership roles? What behaviors you see from people who are applying? What behaviors you see from people who don't apply? Okay.
I won't stop until I make you mine. Until I make you mine. You need to know. We'll take it slow. I miss you so. We'll take it slow. It's hard to feel you slipping through my fingers are so numb. And how was I supposed to know that you were not the one? Put your hand in mine. You know that I want to be with you all the time. You know that I won't stop until I make you mine. You know that I won't stop until I make you mine. Until I make you mine. Put your hand in mine. You know that I want to be with you all the time. Oh darling, darling, baby, you're so very fine. You know that I won't stop until I make you mine. Until I make you. I could cry, I could plead. I could say it's never gonna get any better and leave. I could throw my hands up, I could fall to my knees. I could tell myself I'm strong enough to give all the love that I need. But I still need you to ease my load. Hold me when the lightning strikes. Lead me home when I don't know which way is right. Love me when it's hard. I promise that I'm not leaving from your side. And when I fall apart, promise in the dark you'll be my nightlight. Ooh, you'll count every time that I fall in. Even when I'm in so deep, it gets hard to see you still all in. I've been lost by myself in the darkness. Know that I can find my way even on the days when it's hardest. But I still need you to ease my load. Hold me when the lightning strikes. Lead me home when I don't know which way is right.
Okay, time's up. I guess done. Put in the chat if you're done. If you need more time, I'm sorry guys, I can't give more time. No delay. Anyway, cool. How are you feeling? How's your mood right now? Are you sleepy? Are you feeling too much content, too much information? Your brain hurts, or like how's it going? Just to get me an understanding. Amy saying thumbs up. Wait, I can only see Amy, guys. So like, I'm sorry. I just need to adjust my video. Okay. I guess it's Travis, Kezia, Lucia saying thumbs up. Karan is shaking his head. And okay, cool. Nice. Okay, cool. Amazing. Cool. Let's move forward. So last part that we can talk about is like the values. This is, you see, we are going to try to relate the values into our six values and try to see what are the things that we observe in the entity in terms of this. What is perceived as striving for excellence in your entity? What standard do we hold our leaders against? So these are my guiding questions to understand the values of the entity. Yeah, what perceived as striving for excellence, and what standard do we hold our leaders against? What perceived as demonstrating integrity? Do our leaders fulfill their responsibilities and promises? What is perceived as enjoying participation? Do our leaders enjoy their leadership experiences? What is perceived as acting sustainability? Do our leaders take into consideration future generations with their actions? What is perceived as activating leadership? Do our leaders inspire us to be better? What is perceived as living diversity? Do our leaders act inclusively? So this is my guiding questions for you to go through like six values that we have in the organization and see how much that you see this in your entity, in your leadership. When you talk about leaders, like this can be your MCP, evaluate yourself. MCVPs, your LCPs, your LCVPs, these are like key leadership roles that we have in the organization. Think about them, think about their behaviors, think about their values that they mostly practice in here. So my observations are, you can see like in terms of value, we can see like people role modeling, they have good work ethics. People consider being busy is like something good. People always want to like do something with Isaac or like do something with their, they're always like engaging and always trying to do their work. Achievement over learning or learning over achievement, like they either appreciate anything. They either appreciate achievement, you can see people achieving like learning or like appreciating learning in the entity as leaders. Leadership role, like they take responsibility or they do not take responsibility sometimes. They need to serve the owning up their mistakes. This is also something that I observe in the entity. So yeah, think from your side, what are the values from these questions? Try to find answers to these questions, thinking, reflecting on your entity. Cool. I'll give you 3 minutes for this.
I just thought was passing through. Colored in with vivid memories of me and you. And on a moonlit night, I've never seen stars this bright. No, I can't help it. I've been catching feelings over you. I hope you catch them too. I hope you catch them too. I've been going crazy. I've been going crazy. I hope you're crazy too. I hope you're crazy too. Crazy too. Got me running wild in fantasy, like you won't believe. I caught a glimpse of what I failed to see, and that's all I need. I don't wanna let more time slide. I traded 1,000 nights for just one with you. I've been catching feelings over you. I hope you catch them too. I hope you catch them too. Yeah, I've been going crazy over you. I hope you're crazy too. I hope you're crazy too. Crazy too.
Okay, thanks up. I hope you're able to reflect on the values. So we start from the where do we start? We start from the our we're talking about culture. We start from our actions and we went back to behaviors. Now we are going back to the values in order to understand. I think this is where like you need to be really looking into thinking about our key strategies in terms of the succession, learning and development, R&R, or like member engagement. Um, so in terms of these strategies, this is where you can start. Oh, this is how these values has been perceived inside my entity at this point right now. And by shaping these values, we will be able to shape our behaviors. Then we'll be able to shape our actions toward that. So and then we can build the culture that we want to build for in order to achieve this. So like the basically what you need to do is you need to define the value, like what is your uh, basically like it's about what is your expectation, like how do you want this value to be perceived in your entity, how do you want this value to be practiced in your entity. As an MC team, you are the person that you can make that decision, and when you make that decision and then you start practicing that yourself, then it automatically goes down to the LC level and network. Yeah, so this is where we start, this is where we're going back. And I just wanted to understand what are your key conclusions. And but you can keep it for yourself right now because we have a little bit of working time in the future. So part two, before part two, do you guys need a break? Do you guys need to get up, stretch your legs, take some water? Yes, KCS is showing already. Okay, I'll give 1 minute. Um, it's okay, it's okay. Uh, and okay, I'll give 1 minute. Please be back. Drink some water, stretch your legs, stretch your arms. Um, so because we have working time coming up. Drink some water.
Catching feelings over you, and I hope you catch them too. And I hope you catch them too. I've been catching feelings over you, and I hope you catch them too. Oh, yeah, I've been catching, and I've been going crazy. Don't be down when it's over, baby. Yeah. I'll be your man. Oh man. Have you ever loved? Would you go again? Don't be down when it's over, baby. Yeah. I'll be your man.
Bro, you read my mind. I was thinking about this, to be honest. Like right now, I was thinking, shit, I should have a RM in this session and allow them to analyze the region so that I can know who's gonna apply for the FC. Yeah, of course, I see a couple of people who has the potential to apply. I'm looking forward. I'm seeing Chetra coming with +1 to the application. So I'm expecting 2 applications from Chetra's side and NJ, Kara. Good people, good people. Uh, yes. Cool. Okay, time's up. Let's move forward. Amazing. So what you're going to do right now is I'm going to give you a couple of questions. I just want to rate yourself, rate from your side, about how score yourself for these statements. So basically, simply as that. So have a pen and paper ready. Choose an answer from each slide. Keep in mind the points. Keep in mind the question that I ask. So I'll give like I'll try to give like 30 seconds for each question. Um, and yeah, so let's start. So the first one is that so the scoring is like this. So it's none, some, mostly, or always. If it is like none, it's like not at all, or like not at the any time. So you give one, or like if sometimes it's like give two. Mostly, if you give three, always you give four. Okay. So for the each statement, make sure that you give an scoring to yourself. You are thinking about your entity. Okay, the first one is perception toward leadership role is undesirable. Perception toward leadership role is some perception toward leadership role is undesirable. Some perception toward leadership is position is desirable. Most perception toward leadership role is desirable. Okay, so these are the 4 statements. So you can give yourself and scoring, thinking about your entity.
Hey, Suru, I have a question. This is
Yes,
like my perspective of my membership, right?
yes, the perspective toward your entity.
Isuru, I also have a question. So
Go ahead.
there must be some desirable and undesirable, right? So you mean the majority, is it?
Majority.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, done. Move to the next one. Okay. Feeling, thinking toward leadership position is undesirable. Some feelings thinking toward leadership position is undesirable. Some feelings thinking toward leadership position is desirable. Most feeling thinking toward leadership role is desirable. How do you think about your entity? Done? Okay, move forward. Next question. No supporting behaviors towards succession planning. Some supporting behavior towards succession planning. Mostly supporting behaviors towards succession planning. A lot of supporting behaviors towards succession planning in your entity. Okay, moving forward. No supporting behaviors toward training and development. Some supporting behaviors toward training and development. Mostly supporting behaviors toward training and development. A lot of supporting behaviors toward training and development. Okay, next one. No supporting behaviors toward reward and recognition. Some supporting behaviors toward reward and recognition. Mostly supporting behaviors toward reward and recognition. A lot of supporting behaviors toward reward and recognition. Think about how what happens when you publish a post about and performing member. Do they tag each other, congratulate themselves, how they appreciate each other in a gala, or like how many people apply for the awards in the entity? These are the behaviors that you can see for reward and recognition. Yeah, I know. Cool. Member engagement. Thinking about member engagement, what do you think? Value entity. No supporting behaviors, some supporting behaviors, mostly supporting behaviors, lot of supporting behaviors toward member engagement. How did it look like? Example, do you have a lot of engagement activities organized by your LC? Do you have how many participations that you have toward member engagement? What do LCs do when people doesn't show up? What is how they take it forward? What is the way forward? How these behaviors look like for inside your entity right now? Okay, moving forward. How people appreciate feedback, how your leaders appreciate feedback in your entity. Leaders don't appreciate feedback in your put into leaders don't appreciate feedback to put into action. Le- oops. Leaders somewhat appreciate feedback to put into actions. Leaders mostly appreciate feedback to put into action. Leaders always appreciate feedback to put into action. How does it look like for leadership roles in your entity? Do they take, is there a way to collect feedback? First thing. And the second thing is like when they receive feedback, do they take it to action? Do they see people like constantly trying to improve? Yes, include yourself in this one. That's the easiest place to start. Okay, moving forward. How do leaders fulfill their responsibility? How do they take in charge of their ownership toward their actions? Leaders rarely fulfill responsibilities and promises. Leaders sometimes fulfill responsibilities and promises. Leaders mostly fulfill responsibilities and promises. Leaders always fulfill responsibilities and promises. How does it look like in your entity? Ritvik, you want to share something? No.
Yes, Ru, I wanted to ask a question about
Yeah,
this.
go
So,
ahead.
is it with regards to just like if I think from an MC perspective, then the answer is different. But if I think from the entire leadership body, which is the LCPs, MC team, and LCVPs, then the answer comes different. So, which one should I consider?
I think you should think about overall everyone in the all the leadership roles.
Okay,
So look holistic as the overall entity.
all right.
Yeah,
Thank you, Sru.
amazing. Moving forward, how leaders recognize the contribution from members. Leaders rarely recognize contribution of the members. Leaders somewhat recognize contribution of the members. Leaders mostly recognize contribution of the members. Leaders always recognize the contribution of the members. How does it look like in your entity right now? Okay, forward. Okay, leaders rarely inspire actions by being role models. Leaders somewhat inspire actions by being role model. Leaders mostly inspire actions by being role models. Leaders always inspire actions by being role models. How do you see your entity leaders behave in role modeling? Maybe you observe them during the conference. Maybe the behaviors that you set for the entity, how do they practice by themselves? Moving forward, leaders rarely act inclusively. Leaders somewhat act inclusively and learn from diverse opinions. Leaders mostly act inclusively and learn from diverse opinion. Leaders mostly, leaders, wait. Yeah, leaders mostly act inclusively and learn from diverse opinions. I think that's a mistake. This should be somewhat and mostly and always. This is always, guys. Okay, you got the point. This is yeah. Okay, cool. So moving forward, this is the last question. Total up your score out of 48. Which statement stood out for you? Like, which are the things that you think that most significant for you? If I maybe I can go for like one sharing. If someone want to share, like, if one statement that you think that you think a little bit deeper, or that you think that something that you might be able to share. Let's see.
Can I?
Yeah, bro. Go ahead.
I think the last statement in terms of inclusiveness, I think that was one of the things I could not come up with an answer for, because I think that is very hard to attain, being here for like 2 years. I don't know if within an organization, because of this autonomous structure at every level, like the LCP is responsible for the LC, the MC is responsible for the entity, and AI is responsible for the whole entity. But then you also have the autonomous level of decision making at each level. So when we strive for making everything inclusive, I think then either we are stuck with the time we have as an MC, or we have for the leadership role, which is 1 year. So to make a platform where you can be inclusive enough, which requires time, or to make a decision which you need everybody's opinion to be ordered in place, it takes time. So sometimes we go ahead with our things, and then I think not that much inclusiveness is portrayed in most of the decision making. It's generally very experience based, based on the LCP's understanding, based on the MC's understanding. And I think, yeah, that's one of the things which I was stuck with coming through this whole, like, some answers were very easy, some answers were okay, but this one was something which I was like, how can possibly we achieve a standard of inclusiveness within the organization where we have such openness of decision making within every circle of the organization, or within every level of the organization? And in order to make that happen, you need time with which we have limited of, and then that resists or has a particular cap on the actions you can make accordingly. As you were sharing, right, like the compendium crisis and everything. So I think people try to undermine the decision making process all the time, and that sometimes can hamper the team experience or can hamper the direction or can boost as well. So it's very dependent on how the whole culture aspect is managed of an organization.
Sure, that's true. I think that is a very valid point in terms of the autonomy of the different layers. So I think that's why we talk about like this is like a network organization, and like we don't have most of the time what we lack is like we don't have a lot of authority over different structures. Like that is something that we need to accept, and that is something that's why we need to embed like stuff like change management, more like bottom up approach or like top down or like more combination of that, or like having more network touch points and things like that. So like I think this is will allow us to build. So I think that what we can do in here is like building relationships and then push things through that, which take a lot of time, which take a lot of time, which take a lot of effort. But at the end of the day, if you want to make a change, I think that's the way to go. And that will create a sustainable change as well. But thank you, Karan, for sharing. I think that is a very valid point that you need to be thinking about when we move for the next part. Okay, cool. So this is we are moving to the last part, which is the part three, visualize and desired state. And we think about like how we can do this. Oh my God, we have 15 minutes. So strategy offers formal logic for the company's goals. And we talk about culture, expressing goals through values and the beliefs, and guides activity through the shared assumptions and group norms. So what we're going to talk here is that like if you have a lot of support toward reward and recognition, member engagement, training, development, if people are mostly feeling thinking toward leadership positions are desirable, they have good perception about leadership positions, they have supporting behaviors to succession planning, and then this is where we want to achieve. This is the ideal state that we want to be. We want to make sure that they have these behaviors that we want to push and we want to achieve from them. So the behaviors and then cultural element that we want to, the strategy that we want to push for. So this is where we're going to connect it, and through values, behaviors, and actions, how we can push for the culture part. Uh, Give me a second. Tisra, yes, I think we can say on time, maybe 5 minutes delay. Thank you. Cool. Okay, so other part is like leaders always appreciate feedback for the put into the actions. So this is the next part that we talk about, and this is an desired state that also we want to achieve. So we want to talk about bridging the gap. So this is the part that we're gonna work on, and then there will be an activity that we're gonna focus on. The activity assessment of desired state is just based on your perception, thoughts, and feelings. It is important also validate this by asking other people in your entity. So right here, like we are not gonna working as entity. We are gonna working to in mix groups with different people for different perspectives. I think that will gives you maybe gives you an answer to the questions that you will have. But thing is like you right now we are building this based on your perception, your idea, your experience, but make sure that you validate this before you go ahead and implement. A recommendation is speak to other groups of people who are doing this workshop to put together your conclusion for more thorough understanding of the current context. So for you to understand right now, the LCPs are in this kind of group, this kind of session, your LCVPs are in this kind of the same session. They're also doing the same brainstorming, and they are going through the same content. And make sure that you talk to them. Maybe if you can have a space after the conference to get together and like get all these output, and then maybe it will help you to build something more solid from with different perspectives. So it's our working time. So question to answers is that how can we move forward from our current state to the desired state by being more conscious about the culture that exists in our entity and how it affects our strategy execution. Maybe if you want, okay, it's okay. I'm going to give you the slides anyway. So for this, we are going to use 6 thinking hats if you're familiar with the concept. If not, like don't think too much. Like it's about like how only way that we are going to use this is that to look at the problem in different perspectives. So six things here talk about like different way of you can think. So blue had talk about like defining problem and being clear on the desired state. Green had talk about being creative, getting out of the box, fighting for traditions, bringing unique perspectives. So this is more like how you can not stick to the same thing and like think out of the box and be a little bit creative. Uh, Next hat is red, which is talk about emotions. This is about like how's your entity and like how's the emotions in your entity look like, how's your emotion look like while you're making decisions. Yellow had talk about positive side of the things, like maybe looking at things in a positive way rather than like looking at things, oh, this is how it like always has been in my entity. Like we cannot change it. Like this is the behavior, this is the culture, this is my country culture, this is the religion. Like stop like being focused on the negative side and try to focus on the positive side. Look into more options through that. Black hat is like what can go wrong, making sure the minimums are all the blind spot are being covered. And yellow hat is sorry, white hat is about the facts and figures that you need to take into consideration before making decision. Right now, you don't need to think about it. Don't worry about it. Mostly focus on the guiding questions and maybe think the same question from different perspectives. That is my invitation for you. How do you influence this? So this is where I'm going to talk about how do you make sure that our culture can be influenced in order to build our key strategies. So principle of the space, you will have blank space, like there's no guiding question. Sorry, there will be guiding questions, but there won't be like instructions given in a like a how you call it, like in a slide. Like you will not be filling in like a framework. It will be a blank. You will get a blank working sheet, working slide. So make sure that you put all your ideas in there. It's just about like typing, visualizing, concluding your ideas so that you can take it forward. The answers are in the group. Make sure that you talk to everyone. Everyone get a chance to your opinion. You don't have 45 minutes, guys. You have like 10 minutes. I'm sorry. But yeah, let's move forward and see. I work in the Google Sites. So the questions for this, like one thing that you need to think is like you need to pick an strategy. Don't try to address everything because that you will not have time for that. Either you pick succession planning, either you pick training and development, or reward and recognition, or member engagement. And these are the guiding questions that you need to answer. So you have slides in this link, and you have the working sheet in the second link. Let me give this slide to you. This is a slide for you to refer the content, and this is the working sheet. The working sheet looks like this. So you'll be going into the breakout room, and then you can go here and you can like, so guiding questions and everything is here. First thing that you need to do is that you pick a problem for your entity, for the group that you're working on. Based on your group number, pick a slide that you want to work on, and then put down all your ideas, think about these questions and put down ideas in here. Cool, is it clear? All of you have links, everyone can access it. The real typing. uh, cool. Yes, this is, I have a lot of sessions, guys. I'm sorry. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna do 10 minutes space. Tissa, can you help me with the breakouts? I think there'll be around, Tissa, maybe we can do like 4 people in a group. Can you recreate the breakout for the 4 people in a group?
Oh, yes, sir. Give me a minute.
Amazing. And please allocate 10 minutes for the group. And then you can go to the group and then you can pick your working sheet and then you can work on there. Any questions?
Okay, the rooms are done for 10 minutes.
Yeah, you can open that.
Okay.
I'm gonna move one person to group 1. And Fayok?
Hey, what's up?
Yeah. By the way, Tisra, can you pause the recording? Hello, people. Welcome back. Look at the smile of people. Amazing. Cool. So how's the discussion in the breakout room? I know it's not enough time. I'm really sorry about it. But one thing is that, of course, like we'll not be able to come up with a solid solution at this point right now. And that's first thing. And the second thing is that I just want to like make sure that we initiate the discussion so that we can take it forward. I think this is something that you really need to take forward because succession is like a problem that we have in the region at this point right now. I think most of you are like, okay, guys, we don't have like like sometimes like we are still missing some MCPs as well. So we really need to address this problem at this point right now. So it's something we take forward. Anyway, how's the discussion space? I think I can go for like one person to share any key highlights that you like. Check the chat. You need more time. Yes, I'm sorry, Casey. I know. Okay. Okay. Can one person share? How was it? Anything interesting that you hear or anything? Let's see who's take the leadership role. Being proactive to share. Okay, no worries. Okay. Cool.
I think
Yes.
one
Yeah.
interesting point. Yeah, so I'm Jai from ISEC Malaysia. So I just want to share about like our team just now. One of the sharing that caught my attention is actually what we learn in ISEC do not have any certification on the skill that we are learning. So this doesn't actually add value to the membership that are going like for future usage, which is like searching for jobs or any things that can certify us. We actually have this kind of skill. Yeah. So yeah, sorry, because we actually choose for training and development. So this is something that we should take note and also should recognize our membership if let's say they actually have the kind of skill that we can learn and develop and showcase to external as well. And as well as like, I think I want to share one more thing that coming from Isaiah Malaysia is actually we see that external resources is something that is very important, but then we are lacking in our Isaac, which is like our membership are not externally driven enough so that we are not able to cope the change that fast compared to other entity or even like other organizations. So that's why I think one thing that we also need to evolve right now is actually to really talk to others, engage external, and bring in the environment or even like the learning from the external to any Isaac entity as well. Yeah. Do not really live in Isaac bubble anymore. Yeah. So from me, thank you.
Thank you so much. I think this is a very valid sharing. It has a lot of good, valuable insights. Um, okay, okay, people. I'm sorry. I would really like to hear like what you have mentioned or what you came up with. I wish I had time. But thing is, one thing I want to mention is that please make sure that okay, one thing that we might think right now, or like we might not have enough time to execute something. We might not have enough time to like go ahead and do something for this entity, or like even if I do something right now, I might not be able to see the results. Like it's okay. Like start something. Make sure that you start something and make sure that you work with your new next generation of your MCPs, so that the MCP that is the new MC team is going to come. Make sure that this is something taken forward in your entity, because of course we cannot change this in a one term. That's not going to happen, guys. I'm not expecting that to happen. It will be a long-term journey of like change management, but it would be if you're consistent enough. Like I think that is possible thing to change in your entity. So Final thing that I want to mention, if you're MCP, MCVP, the things need to consider in your entity, the team, the way I'm role modeling, the values that and behaviors of my MC team, the values and behaviors of my LCPs or LCVPs, strategy regarding a leadership pipeline. So we talk about succession, training and development, reward and recognition, member engagement. If you think about leadership pipeline, this is where you can go and start addressing. This is the area that you can work on. How do they influence? It's like compendium, internal communication about selection process, national education cycle, capacity building spaces for team leaders, MCLC working relationship, transition agenda manager for elects. So this is where like you can actually influence these areas um, in the areas in your entity. So please make sure that you as MC team bring this discussion forward. Talk to your LCPs, talk to your LCPs about their session, take the output and see like what you can do. So culture is what unites people around shared purpose. Culture is a reflection of action, and culture is influenced by behaviors you accept. So make sure, as well as culture is influenced by the behavior you reject. This is very important as well. So make sure that you are taking this forward and make sure that you are working with your entity in order to achieve the ideal culture that you want to see in your entity, so that there will be people applying for leadership pipeline. We all have a role to play. Make sure that you're doing it. Yeah, and the last message, follow us on Instagram. Yes, thank you, people, and thank you so much for this space. And I hope you guys enjoyed. Yeah, and looking forward to here. If you need to any follow up, please make sure that you're bringing it to them. Our team, we are always open for this. If you need any support, if you need anything to like, if you want to check the strategies, if you want help with creating strategies, we are open for this. So make sure that you come and talk to us. Thank you. I'm 10 minutes late. Bayok, take it over.